There's a hadith which says, "Wasitul Imam." Keep the Imam in the middle. I mean, the hadith has some weakness, but it's accepted. I think it's narrated by Abu Dawood. There's also the reason that if you notice, if there's only 3 people praying, this was like before, in the beginning of Islam, they used to make the Imam in the middle. So scholars have said, as a result, you keep him in the middle even when you have long lines of prayer. So it's better to do that. That means you're going to start all the way from there, and then another group of people start from the other side, and you keep a huge gap in the middle. Is that important?
I have a question. So what if someone already started one? Should you start from the middle or just keep going on?
Yeah, if somebody already started, then you want to keep one group as much as possible. Yeah, you could do that. However, there's no guarantee that other people won't start from a different time, from a different place. Tonight, inshallah, we're gonna talk about the beginnings of the Day of Judgment. And I'll use Surah Al-Takwir. Who memorizes Surah Al-Takwir? I should say, who does not memorize Surah Al-Takwir? You do not memorize it. Who memorizes it? No one? How does it start?
Like who's in it? Does someone know it?
How does it start? Yes, إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. Alright. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about certain signs in the universe that will happen in the beginning of the Day of Judgment. We don't know how early, we don't know how long. I mean, a lot of times things that are mentioned in relation to the beginning of times or the end of times could take a lot of time. So we don't know how long that will be. But the first sign has to do with the sun. Now we know the sun is our source of light and heating. These are the main benefits of the sun to us. And the sun, how far is the sun from us?
7 light minutes.
4.
8.
8.
Okay.
8 minutes. 8 light minutes.
8 light years.
Light years?
Light years is... No. 7 just 8 minutes. Just 8
Okay.
minutes.
8 minutes is the right answer. Alright. Thank you. And it's like 93 million miles. It's quite a distance. 93 million miles. And the flames that come out of the sun, they could extend, they can go as far as like 100,000 kilometers. Just the flame. And you can observe that if you have a good telescope. So what happens in the sun actually is a bunch of explosions. There's like a chemical reaction, or you could say physical, because it's a fusion. It's a fusion of the hydrogen atoms. So the sun is full of hydrogen. What happens when you have 2 hydrogen atoms fusing, meaning combining together to form helium? That is a process that produces lots and lots of heat and light. And the temperature is about 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit at the surface. So it's quite hot. And so now we think it's been like 5 billion years. And so far it has consumed about half or 50% of its hydrogen. So there's still 5 billion years to go. If it keeps in the same way, in the same rate of this fusion. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that something will happen to the sun. And it says, إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. Now we know in the Arabic language, kawwara is from kura. Kura is a ball. So it has to do with roundness. Also we say that if you have a turban, you say kawwara al-imama. What is imama? Imama is turban. Kawwara al-imama is to wrap it. So to go in this circular motion and to wrap the turban around your head. So here it seems that what it means in this verse, that all this energy coming out of the sun will be wrapped up. It will be contained. It will no longer radiate this heat and this light. So that is the end of the sun. That's really one of the meanings, and that's the one I picked because it is the closest to the language, the linguistic meaning. So here, this is the end of the sun. Now somebody might say, well, does that mean we have to wait 5 billion years before the Day of Judgment? No, this is the natural process. This is when the physical laws are at work. But the Day of Judgment doesn't have to wait that long. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can stop or change the physical laws for a reason. And the Day of Judgment is obviously a good reason. But as we're going to see, in every sign, there's already a start. It's already started. Like we know, there is an end to the sun. So it's like an indication that this will happen. But again, like I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can interrupt it and make it happen faster. So that's what will happen to the sun. The sun will implode or keep its energy to itself. It will not radiate heat. It will not radiate light. And that is the beginning of the Day of Judgment. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. All right. What is the closest star after the sun?
Andromeda. Well, Andromeda is the galaxy.
Andromeda, you mean?
It's the closest star. It's named that. It is.
I think you're right. It's the galaxy. It's the closest galaxy. What is the closest star? Jupiter.
Who said that? Who said that?
I hope it's a joke. It's called Alpha Centauri, and it's like 4.3 light years. So remember, the sun was only 8 light minutes. So it means it takes light 8 minutes to get to us. For that star that is the closest to us, it takes 4 years and a half almost. 4 years and a half for the light to arrive to us. This is how far it is. And that is the closest star. In our galaxy, how many stars do we have?
Uno.
No, that's not infinite.
400 billion?
About like 100 billion or so, or more now. I don't know, they keep increasing. But over 100 billion stars only in our galaxy. And imagine the closest one, it takes 4 years and more to get to us. The light takes 4 years and a third. So the second verse is about the stars. What will happen to the stars? وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ. What is inkadarat? Is that important? Go ahead.
Explode? I don't know.
No. Inkadara, if you look at the Arabic language,
Oh, I think I know.
you do. What
Never
is it?
mind. Oh, wait. When you say it, I'll play those correctly.
Alright. False alarm. We say, for example, ma' mutakaddir. What is ma' mutakaddir? If you look at water, you say ma' mutakaddir, it means it is murky. It is like foggy or cloudy. That happens to your pool if you don't take care of it. You see murky water. So in kadara is to become foggy, to become murky, to become cloudy. So what happens to the stars, it seems that the light of the stars will fade away or become dim. Because obviously if you have cloudy water, it means it is dim, you cannot see through it, it is not clear enough. It is not clear. So it seems that the stars will either get farther from us, and that's already happening, right? Because we know the universe is expanding, right? And it is expanding at a big rate. And the rate of expansion depends on how far we are from the other star. There's a formula actually. The speed of expansion is proportional to the distance squared. So the farther it is, the star, the fastest it is pulling away from us. So either it means that we will no longer see the stars. So when the Day of Judgment begins, it seems that the stars will fade away. So that could mean that the stars will get away from us enough so we cannot see them. Or that the light will become so dim. So we still can see them, but they're so dim and so far away. And again, this is happening. And again, it'll take quite a bit of time until we cannot see any star. So even if the Day of Judgment is way, way, way far, this will happen anyway. This is a prediction from astronomers. If the universe keeps expanding. But again, like I said, when the Day of Judgment starts, it could stop all the physical laws. And we can have this happen even before the prediction comes true. وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ كَدَرَتْ. So that is the meaning of, yes?
Does anything happen to the moon when the Day of Judgment begins?
Does anything happen to the moon?
Sheikh, I just want to tell you something.
Yes.
It's the sun, but I don't think it's good. But so you see the sun, it has a life cycle. When it becomes old, it becomes much redder until it gives out so much heat that it gives the earth so much heat that the earth begins to get broiled.
Broiled. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So let's move on. وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ. And by the way, I know you're going to have a lot of questions. Let's keep some of those till the end, because people upstairs are listening to us and they cannot hear all the questions. So just to be fair for everybody, also the people online, let us, unless it is a really nagging, begging question. Otherwise, let's keep it to the end. Thank you. So the third sign, وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ. And when the mountains are gone, they'll be gone. They'll disappear. So that is the third sign. So and there are many verses in the Quran that talk about the fact that the mountains will shatter, the mountains will disappear. And we already see this happening. We see the corrosion happening. We also see, especially in not this country, but third world countries usually, people are cutting the mountains and they're ruining the mountains. Oh, they bring equipments, machines, and cut the rocks and make they can make dirt or building materials out of it and so on. Okay. And then it says وَإِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ. The fourth sign, إِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ. Many scholars have said that ishar here, it refers to al-ushara, the plural of ushara. And ushara is the camel that is pregnant in the 10th month. So if you know Arabic, 10 is number, or ashara is number 10, right? So the Arabs at the time, when the animal is pregnant and it has entered its 10th month, they call it ushara. And ishar is a plural. And here they said, well, because the Arabs loved the camel so much, right? And they were attached to the camel, especially when it's pregnant, because it's gonna, procreate, it's gonna give another camel. But because the Day of Judgment is so hard and there's a lot of stuff going on and it's frightening, they will neglect these camels. So uttila is to neglect. Like it says, وَبِئْرٍ مُعَطَّلَةٍ. It means a neglected well. So attala is to neglect. And here it means that they abandon the camels because of all what's happening around them in the universe and on earth. But I find this opinion not so strong. And the reason is because this is not so common anymore. Like how many people now, how many people you see attached to camels? And the Quran is not only talking to the Arabs, it's talking to everybody. And now it's almost unknown or rather infrequent to see people attached to camels and celebrating the pregnancy of a camel. So there has to be something else here. And the opinion I follow is that ishar comes from a different word. And this is important if you want to understand the Quran. It's important that we understand the Arabic. And nowadays we have, like so-called scholars and they don't know almost any word of Arabic. And they're famous speakers and going here and there, but the basics of Arabic they don't have. It's important if you are interested in learning Islam that you dedicate some time to learn the Arabic language. How can you understand the Quran? You cannot just rely on a translation or a summary or a footnote. You have to go to the original sources. Yes, you can be a Muslim without knowing Arabic, that's fine. But if you want to be a scholar, if you want to know more, you have to know the original sources. And Quran is the original source. This is like the primary source of Islam. So let us see, what can we learn about Isha? In the Quran, we also hear بئس المولى وبئس العشير. It's a similar word. Ashir is a friend, is a companion, is an intimate friend, in fact. Because Ashir comes from mu'ashara. Mu'ashara is to intermingle. It is to interact with someone on a regular basis. So if you have a friend that you visit with all the time, this is mu'ashara. We also talk about mu'ashara zawjiyya, like the relationship between husband and wife, because they see each other all the time. They interact with each other all the time. They talk to each other all the time. That is mu'ashara. What is it? Mu'ashara. It's going to be on the quiz, so you better know these keywords. What? Okay. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, Baba. Thank you. So what is Isha then? What is Isha? Another thing in Arabic that you need to know quickly is the structure. So for example, you have verbs that are made of 4 letters. Like jahada. You count the letters. Jahada, jim, alif. Come on. Ha, da. Qatala, same thing. 4 letters. Dafa'a and ashara, which is the verb we're talking about. We extract a masdar out of it. What is a masdar in English? So for example, if you have a verb, I ate. Eating is the masdar. So in English, really, we don't have a masdar. It's like the act of eating. So for example, we say jahada, the masdar is jihad. It's always at this structure, jihad. Qatala, qital. Ashara, ishar. That's the word we have. إِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ. So what does it mean then? It means that all relationships will be cut off. All these friendships will be severed, will be stopped. No one will recognize his own friend, his own brother. We have many verses like that. يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ. You'd run away from your own brother. You'd run away from your own father and mother. And why, you might ask? Well, because of what's happening. If you see the sun, not radiating light and energy and heat, and you see the stars fading away, are you going to pay attention to your sibling or your friend? If you see the mountains disappear, you're not going to have time, and you're going to lose your mind already. So you're not going to have, you're not going to appeal to these relationships. Because something far greater, far, worse, if you will, or very, very severe happening around you. It'll make you forget your own ties, your own relationships. So this seems to be the more appropriate meaning here, because it's much more general. It's talking about all types of relationships. Any kind of ishar, any kind of mu'ashara, any kind of relationship being severed, being cut off. And that kind of ties up to the next verse. وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. So what is wahsh? Wahsh is not a monster, a beast, a wild animal. In Egyptian we say wahishni, right? What is wahishni?
I miss you.
Yes, I miss you. But see, that's the reason. Because if you go to the wilderness, what happens? You feel lonely. So basically you're telling him, you made me feel lonely. So that's why it is, I miss you. Wahishni, I miss you. It means you made me feel lonely because you've been away. That is really the... I'm translating Egyptian here, but I hope I'm correct. So, but it comes from wahsha. Wahsha is being lonely, being like by yourself and feeling this anxiousness, like there's no one to talk to. Just like when you go to the wilderness, and same for wild animals. You don't see a lot of social activities among wild animals. Like you see it among social animals and among social humans. We are a social creature. This is why when wild animals see each other, what happens? They run away from each other. They don't become friends. You don't see a wolf become a friend with a wild dog or a lion. They're wild animals. So this verse says, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. So these wild animals, who by nature they run away from each other, now they come together. So you see what's happening in these verses. Everything is turning around. Everything is reversed. The people you know, they will not know you anymore. They will not recognize you. They'll get away from you. And the wild beasts, the wild animals, they're supposed to run away from each other. Now they're going to come together. So you see everything upside down. Also, one reason could be because of what's happening around them. So if you look in the next verse, for example, وَإِذَا الْبِحَارُ سُجِّرَتْ. When you see the sea burning in flames. So that could be one reason why the wild animals will get together, will assemble. Because there are not many places to go, and also because there's so much going on, and it'll make them come together because of the calamity happening around them. Okay. وَإِذَا النُّفُوسُ زُوِّجَتْ. So again, this has different meanings, but I'll pick the easiest. النُّفُوسُ زُوِّجَتْ is when individuals, if you will, individuals, or so nafs means self, it means yourself. When they are paired. So this could mean that the soul is coming back to the body. When the soul is paired with the body. Because we know when you die, the soul separates from the body. And when the day of judgment happens, the soul will come back to the body. So there's a pairing that's going on. وَإِذَا النُّفُوسُ زُوِّجَتْ. Now again, this is an important term. Could be on the quiz. What is the difference between ruh and nafs? You see this used a lot in the Quran. Yamani, how do you answer?
Is it possible that nafs is like the physical, like form kind of?
Is it possible that nafs is a physical, but
it's more physical? It's more like.
But is it physical at all?
No, but like it's more.
The soul. It's immaterial, right?
Yeah, but it's like more commonly known as cross.
Okay, so in Arabic, yes, the nafs could mean, it could identify you as a self, yes. But here in this context, it is talking about soul. But it seems that in the Quran, we refer to soul either as ruh or nafs. In some cases, the app decided to close. I hope that's all. Anyways, so in some verses we see that soul is referred to as ruh. In other verses we see soul referred to as nafs. And if you pay careful attention, it seems like ruh is when it starts. When it's breathed into you, it's referred to as ruh. So this is the blank slate, if you will. This is when the soul is injected to the body. But later in life, as you gain experience and all of that is accumulated in the soul. I mean, nowadays we might call it consciousness. Consciousness is not synonymous to soul, but there is a relationship, obviously. So by the end of your life, your soul is not blank anymore. You've accumulated all these experiences, all these emotions, all these memories you had in life. All of that will be taken away from you as a whole package. Because if the soul is going to be reckoned on the day of judgment, it cannot be blank. It has to have all of the stuff, right? And when it is resurrected, all of that comes back to you. So now you get back your memory, you get back your experiences, you get back your whatever you had before you died. This is why it is referred to as nafs and not as ruh. Is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No? Have you guys heard of teleportation?
Yeah.
What is it? Do you know?
Moving from one place to the next.
But what moves?
Time and
The
space.
nafs moves. If we were to define it, because they say we move consciousness. You don't move the physical body. The physical body stays here. So let's say we're going to do a teleportation from here to Mars. Any volunteers?
Wait a second.
What they say can, I mean, obviously this is not true yet anyways. But the experiment is that you're here, and if we can transfer all of your consciousness to Mars, okay? That includes all your memories, all your attitudes, your mood swings, your whatever. All of that is up here. Transfer it over there, into a body over there. So you don't have to transfer the body. That is teleportation. And then you kill this person here. So there's no two of you, there's only one of you. That is the idea, I think.
I thought you thought about the person. Yeah, the whole person.
The whole person just goes.
Yeah.
But that's not teleportation.
Yeah, it's not what it kind of like breaks the person down and then rebuilds them.
Well, okay, but the physical part is hard though. How do you break somebody physically? That's why I think it's more possible with consciousness.
Teleportation is a
It's
real.
fake
Okay,
anyway.
fine. Yes, I
It's not
know.
real anyway.
Never mind. But,
That kind of makes it
but I hope you get the idea of nafs. You get the idea, this concept of nafs. So nafs is not the blank soul that is given to you in the beginning of life. Nafs is let's call it the loaded soul at the end of your life. After you've accumulated all these experiences and memories and deeds. Obviously you've done good deeds and bad deeds. You could, for example, through your life you could produce a good soul or a bad soul. If you've done enough good deeds, you'll have a good soul. So this package is called nafs. Is that clear?
Wait, so question.
Yes.
So basically, that's just the building up to like a ruh, or like a ruh is the building up to an nafs.
Yes. Ruh, in the beginning of your life you have ruh, at the end of your life you have nafs. So yes. So whatever you do in this life will be captured, if you will, in that nafs. Okay. One more verse, inshallah, we'll stop. You can do questions, inshallah. So, and then it says, وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ. Now, al-maw'uda, usually people say al-maw'uda is that girl in the time of Jahiliyyah, pre-Islamic time. It was a habit, it was a custom of the Arabs to bury their girls alive, out of honor. Nowadays we have honor killing. People accuse Muslims of honor killing, but Islam forbade honor killing. This is why, this habit was forbidden by Islam. So even if you find Muslims doing this, we say this is from Jahiliyyah. It's not from Islam to kill someone for honor. If they did a crime, it should be handled by, the law and, the police, not by individuals. We don't take law in our own hands in Islam. So Islam came to, banish or to forbid this idea that, because this girl can bring dishonor to me later, because they're talking about the future here. Maybe there's a war and this girl will be taken by somebody, so I don't want to have to go through that, so I'll kill her from now. That was the idea. So that's why they used to kill their baby girls when they were young. I don't know what's going on with Facebook today. It keeps happening for a while. Keep saying close app. I don't know what that means. Do you know enough about it? It's quitting. Anyways, I guess we'll lose the recording. Okay, so here it says that on the day of judgment, this baby girl will be asked about why she was killed. Now a lot of people think, well, this is limited to that time. And again, I usually do not like these types of interpretations because it limits the Quran. It limits the Quran to a certain time or a certain place. Let me ask you, what about abortion? Is that a form of wa'ad? Because wa'ad is to kill a baby. It is. What is the difference? Hold on. Let me just explain it. So if somebody decided to kill their baby, sorry, liberals. If somebody decided to kill a baby, right? Is that a form of wa'ad because you're killing something that is alive? Now, of course, in Islam, we distinguish between a fetus, for example, that is before 120 days and after 120 days. Because we believe up to the 120 days, that fetus does not have a soul. And that the angel comes and breathes the soul into the fetus after the 120 days. So technically, some scholars have said that if abortion happens before the 120 days, it's not considered killing. Because that piece of flesh does not have a soul. That piece of flesh does not have a soul. It's an opinion, it's a valid opinion. But absolutely, if this happens after the 120 days, it is a baby with a soul, so it is a life. You're killing a life. And hence, it is haram in Islam. Was there an abortion back then? I don't know, but I'm talking about now. I'm not talking about back then. I'm talking that this still happens now. A lot of people kill their babies now, even after they're born. Some people leave them in a trash can or they put them in a dumpster just to get rid of them. So this still happens. It's a sad reality, but it happens. The point is, a lot of these ayat, some people try and interpret them as something that used to happen or that's referring to certain people or certain time. And the idea is when we approach the Quran, if there are different interpretations and the interpretations do not conflict with each other, it's totally alright to accept different interpretations. And this is a different interpretation, it's a valid one, because the idea is not to kill any baby. It doesn't matter if it is before delivery or after delivery. If it is alive, it is a baby. Right? So all those babies, it seems, will be asked on the Day of Judgment. Why were they killed? Oh, because, it's my body, right? It's my right. Maybe that's... But would this be a valid answer? That's a question. Would this be a valid answer on the Day of Judgment? I just said. So some people say, it's my body, it's my right, I can abort anytime.
No, the kids, the babies when they're asked.
No. yes. This is like a rhetorical question, which means the answer is obvious. If I come and ask you, you were killed wrongly, and I ask you, for what reason, for what sin? Because it says, بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَ. For what sin were you killed? You don't have to answer me. This is a rhetorical question. It's just it is to make a point. Yes. Yes.
Would the 120 days still be counted if it was still in the mom's stomach?
Yes, it will. Because abortion means that you take the baby out of the mother's womb. So yes, it will be inside. It's a fetus. It's not a baby. You can call it a fetus. Okay, let us actually, because I'm like done. So let us, finish this session, and then we'll do all the questions, which you probably already asked. But okay, so I wanted to cover this much because I want to make 2 points. One is because somebody last time asked some questions about the Day of Judgment. I don't think we covered this before. These are the signs that happen like before the actual reckoning starts. These are signs that happen in the universe and on Earth around us. They're like precursors to the reckoning itself. And the second reason is because I want all of us to get a feel, get a flavor, if you will, of the Arabic of the Quran. So it's important that every time we encounter a new word in the Quran, that we try and understand it, dig deep and see the origins of that word and what kind of meaning could it offer us. Because when we understand that meaning, it could give us a new meaning. When we understand the Arabic, it could give us a new meaning. So I hope we can develop this intuition. And this is especially important in the small surahs because we recite them all the time. We memorize them many times, right? We recite them in salat. But most of the time we have no idea what we're reciting. So I hope today we learned a few words and inshallah you'll think about them when you recite the Quran. Okay? أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. So I'll stop here, and now if you have any questions, we'll take them. All right. Okay. Who's first? Go ahead.
In Jannah, are you like in your human body?
In Jannah?
Yeah, are you in the human body?
Okay, the question is, in Jannah, are you in your body as you have it today? Well, yes, but it will be more perfect and it could be bigger. I mean, we have some indications in some hadith that you're going to have a bigger body. But yes, it will be the same. Now, obviously, if you have any handicap or any, anything imperfect, it will be made perfect. So, but yes, since the soul returns to the body, it will be the same person, except better. And also, like, your age will be 33 and all of that. So, like the best time of your life. I don't know.
So you said...
What age are you interested in? I don't know, I'm just curious. 21. Okay, fine.
So, first of all, so you said about like how 120 days, something like that, like some number, like the ruh is, the nafs is going into the baby.
Ruh, because it's the beginning, right?
So, what about if like an abortion happens before the 120 days? Is that still not haram?
Like I said, many scholars have said it is not haram because the soul has not been breathed into the body, so it does not make it an actual life. The baby is not alive yet, so it is okay. Some of them said, yeah, but still it is, something that is forming. Why should you destroy it? But we cannot say that it is a human being until there's a soul in it. Otherwise, it's a piece of flesh.
Okay, second question. So let's say like a baby or like...
We're going to get a lot of abortion questions.
Okay, let's just say like a baby, like a suppressant.
Guys, listen up.
You mentioned the law that like at Yom Qiyamah, after the age of 33, what if you die before like getting to that age?
Simple. I mean,
you just see how you would live.
Yeah.
Increase.
Yes. Who did not answer? Sorry, he was. Yeah. I'll get back to you. Yes.
When you die and be in the grave, are you in Jannah, or you go to Jannah after Day of Judgment? But before it's let's say you died before Day of Judgment. Do you dream of Jannah in the grave, or do you just?
Okay, so the question is, these are deep questions.
They are.
So the question is, when you die, do you dream of Jannah? So what happens when you die? First of all, we have to know that, guys, when you die, the soul separates from the body. So anything that happens to you in the grave happens to the soul. And hence, if there's a hadith that says, you're going to be able to see your place in Jannah. So in the grave, you can see it. But how you see it, we don't know. It's not the physical eye that is looking at it. It's the soul that has an image of that piece in Jannah. But only in the Day of Judgment, as you said, after the reckoning finishes, that's when you actually go into Jannah. Hold on, or I don't know. You asked me.
I have a question. So let's say the doctor comes up to you and says, he will live, like let's say the baby will live, but he's gonna like he's gonna be having a really bad life because of like something, I don't know, whatever. But you don't want that to happen to him, so you do like an abortion. So is that?
So the question is, what if the doctor comes and tells you that the baby will have a tough life if he's delivered because of some issue? Do you then do abortion? Again, if it's before the 120 days, yes. If after, then we need to be careful, because I can give you a different problem. What if somebody got a sickness when they're 3 years old, or 5 years old? Would you say, well, I don't want them to suffer the rest of their lives, so I would? You don't do that, right? So similarly, it does not matter really if they're 1 year, or 1 month, or 1 day, or minus 1 day, right, before delivery. As soon as they become a human being with a soul, we try and save the body as much as possible. And we don't know. A lot of times, by the way, these doctors will make a prediction. It's not for sure. It's not for certain. They'll give you a probability, right? So we don't know. Yes, over there.
So you said that, I don't know if you said, did you say when you're in Jannah you're 31?
33.
Oh,
In Jannah, yes.
my dad actually kind of told me, all of us are kids, but you still remember that they're your parent or grandparents.
Yeah. So you will have access to your relatives. You will have access to your parents and all. Yes. Now it can get very paradoxical if you keep asking those questions. I know, but again, think of it. See, the life in Jannah is not like the life on earth. You cannot use the same physical laws. So they're different. It's a different dimension. It's a different scope. So don't try and make an analogy between this life and the hereafter. It's really hard to imagine how it will be. For example, the Quran told us that in Jannah we'll have fruits, but it told us the fruits of Jannah are not like the fruits on earth. We have no idea how they will be, how they will taste. There is some similarity, but we don't know. Really? Yes.
So you said that when we're in the grave, you see our place in Jannah, so that basically like, you know heaven.
Or Jahannam, I mean, it depends.
Yeah. So basically, even before the Day of Judgment, you know like where you're gonna be.
Yes, you get some clues. Yes. I did not look at this slide yet. Is there any questions? You do.
Do you have clothes in Jannah?
Let's not go there. Yes, I mean there are verses that says that وَلِبَاسُهُمْ فِيهَا حَرِيرٌ. They will wear clothes of silk. It'll be very comfortable. Also, there's a mention of istabraq, which is a form of silk. So yeah.
No, I'm just asking if this is like Nike or something.
Nike?
What if you want to wear Gucci, not silk?
What if you don't wait?
Okay.
Or off-white Nike.
Oh, people in Jannah wear any clothing. Yes.
Would there be like In-N-Out Burger and all that? And just-
In-N-Out Burger. Don't give away your secrets. No, I mean, again, so, okay, maybe there's one verse or one hadith that will hopefully will put an end to all of this. Guys, listen up, so you don't ask the same question again. So in the hadith it says فيها ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب بشر. In Jannah there is what no eye have seen, what no ear has heard, and something that never occurred to you, to your mind. It's far beyond what you like, it's far beyond what you imagine, it's far beyond what you crave in this earth. And in the Quran there's also a few ayat like that. ما تشتهي الأنفس وتلذ الأعين, for example, that anything that you crave, you will get. Anything that your eye will crave, you will get. So, yes.
Wait, well, I thought that you don't need to eat or drink, you're saying.
You don't need to eat
Or drink.
or drink. I mean, there are many verses that talks about fruits and stuff like that in Jannah. What you probably heard is that you don't have a necessity to eat, but you eat out of leisure. You eat out of just to have fun. Yes. So yeah, the body does not have needs like it has in this life, but you, of course, you can enjoy it.
If you're in Jannah, are you the age of your life in Jannah? Are you gonna be 18 or
33.
We already answered that. 33.
53.
Except for talaq. Okay. Right.
Well, with like, I like the I just kind of like.
Maybe we should have a halqa just about Jannah because all the questions.
We should.
Okay.
We should. Next week.
Wait,
We should have Q&As.
Huh?
Q&A, yeah. Islamic Q&A, Islamic question and answers.
Like just the entire halqa?
I agree.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes in the halakha, we all
Just like whatever question.
No, we're not.
See what happens when I do that, no one has any question.
Exactly.
Like I come and there's no question.
Yeah, because you're not talking about it.
Give
I
us
know.
a 5-minute lecture, 30-minute Q&A.
5-minute lecture,
Like
30-minute question.
Well, you don't give us a topic to ask.
So you lecture for like 5 minutes.
So should we do 5 minutes? I can do that. I don't have. It's better. It's easier for me. I don't have to prepare as much. Okay, we're gonna have to end it soon. Is the pizza here? Yes. Okay, so we're gonna have
There's
to.
almost ready.
We'll do the topic next time about Jannah, so that way. Last.
Would you be able to like let's say you want to go from point A to point B, do you fly?
You can do whatever you want.
All right, we'll do it next time. Okay.
And seat will NMN.